Betty asks, do you think we should stick with Peraza and just concentrate on adding relief pitchers to form an elite bullpen?
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsulias. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. With me, as usual, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian.
Stacey, we returned for Fan Mail Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday again. And this was a busy week. We did a lot of shows this week, so it almost felt like the regular season in a way. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the like button, hit the bell so you're notified when our videos go live. So coming up on today's show, it's Fan Mail Friday. We answer your burning questions, and it's that time of year again. Who avoided arbitration and who didn't? We will tell you. But first, as usual, we have our insiders asking us questions. And as usual, we have Betty to start things off. So here we go. Betty asks, do you think we should stick with Peraza and just concentrate on adding relief pitchers to form an elite bullpen?
I don't know, Betty, because their bullpen seems like it's really rounded into form throughout the offseason. They've done a really good job. It does feel like they could really... Tim Hill's not going to cost a fortune to bring in. To bring back, I guess. And who else are you looking for, right? Like, you brought Loizaga back. You got Devin Williams, who's one of the premier closers, I guess, in the league. It seems like throughout the offseason that Devin Williams is going to be just named the closer, that they're not going to make it for Luke Weaver. But Luke Weaver's back. So I don't look at their bullpen as needing a lot of... I mean, I guess you can always add depth, but I don't know about you, Stacey. Their bullpen seems, dare I say, fine for now.
Yeah. I would just like for them to bring back Tim Hill. Other than that, it seems to be pretty set.
It seems like the Tim Hill and the Tommy Kahnle, because he's not official yet either. It seems like those two signings are a kind of handshake agreement at this point. They've been made. They just haven't been announced. If that makes sense. So I'm not in too much of fear unless a team comes in last minute and offers an insane amount of more money. It feels like both guys are very much wanting to come back to New York.
Right.
Well, let's go to David F. He asks, guys, we focus so much naturally on the statistics of each Yankees player. However, which current or former Yankees have the biggest impact on their community? Love the show. Well, we thank you, David, for the compliments. To which guys have the biggest impact in their community? I believe, I could be wrong on this. From what I know, it's got to be Mariano Rivera. I know down in Panama, he's constantly building churches and baseball fields and schools and stuff. He's donated a ton of money back into his community. As far as it goes to other players, I know there are other players that are associated with charities and involved with things off the field. But, I'm not too sure. Not a lot of them make it very public. A lot of them kind of do things on the side with their own kind of things. So do you know of any other players that are doing big things?
I think Cece, back in California, he does a lot of stuff for the kids where he grew up.
Yeah, he's very involved in youth baseball, I think. And he's from the Oakland area, I think.
Yeah.
So I know he's very involved in youth baseball. I think that has a lot to do too with his son. His son is a very, very good young baseball player. So I think he's probably involved with coaching him too. But yeah, you see a lot of players that get involved with these kind of things off the field. But it just needs to be, it's not really brought to light too much, like you said, David, because, we're all focused on what they're doing on the field.
Right. Next question from Ethan. Should the Yankees sign a guy like Jose Iglesias, Nick Madrigal? Is that how you say it? I don't think I've ever heard his name before. Jorge Polanco or Brendan Rodgers, or even a reunion with John Birdie. Liked what he did for them last season and adds a lot of versatility. None of these options are going to impact the budget very much, and it leaves the door open to use Stroman to get bullpen depth or some other areas.
Well, I'll start with this. I don't know how you liked what John Birdie did last year because he played in like 15 games. So he didn't really do much for them at all. So I think they'd probably be soured on a John. Listen, sometimes guys just come in and get hurt, and to no fault of their own, but I don't think a lot of teams that have players like that are very motivated to bring those guys back when they just constantly get hurt. The Yankees weren't very motivated to try Troy Tulowitzki back after he got hurt that whole year. So I don't think John Birdie is going to be on their radar as a guy that they want to bring back very much. I would say Polanco wouldn't cost anything. Madrigal wouldn't cost anything. Iglesias would probably cost something, but not a lot. The one that I think that their eye is on, and a lot of people's eyes on, is Brendan Rodgers. Now, the Rockies cutting ties with him is a little strange because he's had good numbers, had productive numbers, former top 10 pick. So there's a lot of potential there. They just simply let him walk because
they're the Rockies.
I don't know. They're the Rockies. But I think Brendan Rodgers has a market. So I do think he would be a little more of an investment. He wouldn't quite be an Alex Bregman investment, but I do think there'd be. I want to ask you this, Stacey, though, because I do think Rodgers wouldn't be a terrible move. I'd rather Bregman, but Rodgers wouldn't be a terrible move.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that acquiring someone at third base or an infielder in this case is going to. I don't think that is tied to the Stroman decision. I don't. I think they're equally trying to get rid of Stroman for financial reasons as they're trying to bring in a third baseman. I don't think those two are necessarily tied.
Yeah. Because everyone's focused on. It's funny. Everyone's focused on second base, but it's really third base. You can move Jazz to second base, and that's where he's more natural, and then bring someone in to play third base. As we've said many times, obviously DJ LeMahieu will be given a shot. But I don't want them to rely on that. I really don't want them to. I know that they're loyal to him because the Yankees are loyal to certain players to a fault, but I would really like for them to try and get someone to actually be able to play and start at third base.
I don't know how long the leash will be for LeMahieu, though. I know that they are going to give him a shot in spring training, but Stacey, it might be 2 weeks. Legitimately. You can see it pretty quickly, especially with a guy like LeMahieu where last year, it wasn't really injury riddled. They shut him down at the end of the year. They were just like, there was never really clarity on the injury that he had at the end of the year. They were just kind of like, yeah, he's hurt. He's on the playoff roster. There was never really clarity with it, which means that they don't believe that he had a place on the roster, which was true. I think because he's under contract, they're going to give him a shot to see if he's healthy. But if they see that he can't play 2 weeks in or he's just not up to shape anymore, they're not going to keep him. So I think they do need to find a replacement before the season starts. But Stacey, I think, say in the worst case scenario, they don't find a DJ LeMahieu replacement, and they say it's going to be DJ or Peraza. That's it going at the third base role, which very well might be what they do. If that's what they do going into the season, I don't think it has any impact on the Stroman decision. I think regardless, they're still going to try and find a suitor for Stroman, no matter what they do at third base. I don't think those two things are necessarily tied, and I think the bullpen, again, once you add Canely and Hill, I think those two decisions are kind of done and your bullpen's figured out at that point.
Right.
Let's go to Casey. Casey says, of the new acquisitions to this point, who do you think will have the biggest impact on 2025? I'm including Loaizaga as he was on the roster but hurt most of the year. I'm interested to hear your answer on this because there's a lot of ways you can go.
Devin Williams.
Yeah, I'd agree. Because the Yankees, that's the best answer you could possibly give. I'm going to give a different one just for the sake of the show. But Devin Williams is the right answer because the Yankees had the most blown saves of any team in the league last year with Clay Holmes. So you're spot on with that one. If he gives you an ERA, if he gives you a bad Devin Williams season, which is an ERA over 2.2, if he gives you something like that, you're still going to have way more saved games. If Clay Holmes blows, let's just say, how many saves did he blow last year? I think it was 11, right?
I thought it was 13.
So it might have been 13. So if he blows, let's just call it an even number around there. It's six less saves last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yankees been almost 100 games. So, it's not even close to me. That is definitely the one. I'll give you one that I think is going to be a big impact player, though, and that's Cody Bellinger. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that's hit for average the last couple of years. He'll give you power numbers as a lefty bat. I think his fielding allows you get a lot more out of Judge. There's less injury risk with Judge not being in center field next year. I think Cody Bellinger is going to have a massive impact in this lineup, but I agree with you. The obvious answer is Devin Williams.
I was just trying to look up to see how many blown saves he had. Clay Holmes.
I
And
think
discovered,
you are right. It's 13.
Right? 13 sounds right. But I discovered that his middle name is Walter, and now I'll never stop thinking about that.
Clay Walter Jones. Weird.
Holmes. All right. Thank you for the question, Casey. Next question from Insider Tim. It says, are Locked On Yankees going to spring training, meaning the two of us, but is Locked On Yankees going to spring training?
Yeah, DM our boss Jeff and see if he'll send us down there. Because if he will, then I'm glad to go down. I've actually, funny you ask, I've never been to spring training.
Even
of all the sports things that I've done, I've been to playoff games and I've been on the road for games and everything. I've never actually been to spring training. I've been to the facility though twice. I've been around the area. I have just never been
during spring
down
training.
there for a game. I don't. Weirdly enough, though, Stacey, I don't find much interest in it. I'm not a big autograph guy.
It's good because you're stuck in winter and you want to be in warm weather. Because that's why I went. Okay. I was sick of winter. I wanted to go. My friend and her sister were going, and I said, let's go. It's 20 years now. We went in 2005. We went in March in 2005. While the hearings for the steroids stuff was on TV.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah. Well, Rafael Palmeiro was like, I've never done steroids. And then he got popped for them how many months later?
Wrote a book on it. I guess it would probably be fun to go with a credential just because you get a little more access to talking to players. And a lot of times from what I hear, they're a little more loose down there than they are once they go up to New York and stuff, like with talking to people and stuff.
I think they're allowed to be more loose.
They're a lot less. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot less people walking around and stuff. So I think there's that aspect to it. But when it comes to going down there, here's the thing. You're going down there for the experience of being at spring training. You're not really getting the baseball fit. I think it sounds better to go do it than it actually is, because that's the way I'd look at it as an outsider, because the best players are getting 1 or 2 at-bats max. And if you're not a big autograph person, you're not getting much out of being there. You're going to a minor league baseball game that an Aaron Judge makes a 1 at-bat. So I don't know. I'm sure you had a lot of fun, but is it really that worth it?
I think for a one-time experience, sure. Just to experience what it's like to be at spring training. Plus, I saw Jason Giambi hit a home run, and I felt like he did it for me. So that was good enough for me. Yeah. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. And if you'd like to be part of next week's Fan Mail Friday, post a reply to our videos when they're posted Monday through Thursday. The days may vary during the off season, but I will search for them and find them. Just start them with Fan Mail Friday, and I will put them up, as you see in the next 2 segments. If you join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club, your questions will be answered most likely in segment 1, sometimes in segment 2. The link is in the description, and it isn't only for Fan Mail Friday. You get text from us and text us questions. There's a 14-day free trial. So like I said, coming up next, more Fan Mail Friday.
Well, speaking of spring training, maybe I'll head down there this year. And if I'm going to head down there, the place that I'm going to use to get my tickets to all the spring training games is Game Time. And Game Time's never made it easier to get tickets to your favorite events with their new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. This feature filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was looking for tickets to an upcoming concert at MSG, and I was using the Game Time app. With Game Time Picks, I found amazing deals and could even see the view from my seat before buying the tickets. The super deal was particularly impressive. It was offering great seats and unbeaten prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost with no surprise fees at the checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Stacey. So we have one more insider question, and then we'll head over to our YouTube questions. Let's go to Eric S. He asks, do you think Derek Jeter will ever take a job in the Yankees front office? I think we got a quick answer for you on that one.
Well, there's a reason why I put that as the last question, because our first YouTube question also has to do with Derek Jeter joining the Yankees in a different way. So I feel like we can answer these two questions together. This is from Joey Patton 8592 on YouTube, and it says, for Fan Mail Friday, have you seen the rumor about Jeter replacing Boone as manager? No.
I haven't. I don't know who
not.
reported that. You might have read it on some blog or something where someone was giving an opinion on something.
Yeah.
I'll say this twofold. I don't think there's a chance Derek Jeter ever joins the Yankee organization in any way, shape, or form, unless he's given some sort of ownership stake at some point. He will never be a GM, president of baseball ops, manager. He will not do anything like that, and here's why. Derek Jeter has one of the most perfect reputations you could possibly have as a former player of a team. Find the negative on Derek Jeter at the Yankee. I'm sure Marlins fans could say plenty.
I was going to say, I'm like, Marlins fans have a bunch to say, but as a Yankee, nothing really.
He had one injury in his entire career as a Yankee, and it is towards the end of his career. Almost every year he had over 170 hits. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's got 5 championships, multiple batting titles, Gold Gloves, you name it. There is not a stain. There was also, Derek Jeter was the one athlete who was in the most large public eye you can imagine that never had one scandal come out on him. Not one. Derek Jeter was popular at the exact same time Michael Jordan was big in the NBA. There were a million scandals around Michael Jordan. There is not one around Derek Jeter. Not one. He is maybe the most beloved Yankee that there is, at least alive right now. Stacey, what good would it serve him to take a leadership role with the Yankees? He could only develop a negative like reaction, because as we've said a million times, there is no way he is going to win at the clip that he won as a player,
right, in
a managerial role or an owner or any role with the organization. So any way imaginable, he will take some fire. He just will, like Boone does, and Boone for good reason does, but like Cashman does, like anybody in the Yankee organization does. It serves Jeter no benefit whatsoever to take any type of leadership role with the organization. I don't think he'd ever do it.
Plus, I think he's actually enjoying being on TV right now, and I don't think he's going to go away from that.
I think a lot of these guys have an interest of doing it, but again, I think there's a reason why he did it with the Marlins. I don't think he had any intention of ever going over to the Yankees.
And he got a taste of what it was like to work with a team that doesn't want to change its ways and doesn't want to spend money and doesn't want to do things to try and turn the team around. And he was like, bye, see ya.
Yeah, there's no way.
Thank you for those questions, Eric S. and Joey Patton. Next, this is from
Midnight Token Floyd chat account. He's going to say the Astros owner refusal to sign players to more than a 5-year deal. Is that something that maybe Manfred told the Astros, hey, I cannot punish your players for the cheating scandal in 2017 since they have immunity, but you as an owner, I can punish you for it, and gave Jim Crane a limited amount of years he can sign players. While this would have a time period, say 10 years. No, there is no chance that's accurate.
No,
it's illegal in the bargaining agreement. Manfred cannot tell you can't sign players over a certain. That's not accurate.
Right. I mean, I kind of wish there was some sort of heavy sanctions placed against that team, but there really weren't.
I do too. There was nothing heavy given to them at all. They basically were forced into firing their owner and GM, who got jobs immediately afterwards. They none of the players got suspensions because they were granted immunity and supposedly told them everything. And they gave Jim Crane a $5 million fine, which is the equivalent of us losing about $1. So I don't know. I hated the punishment that came down for the Astros, but no, there's no way. You can't do that to an organization either. Like, at the end of the day, the Astros still are a part of Major League Baseball. So you can't put a sanction down on them telling them they can't sign players competitively with the rest of the league, because at the end of the day, Major League Baseball doesn't want them to be bad. They don't want any of the teams to be bad. They want the whole league to be competitive. So right. You can't tell them they can't sign players over a certain amount of time, because then you'd be forcing the team to be bad. And at that point, then why are they in the league? But I wish Major League Baseball is the only sport, Stacey, in America that could do this, and I wish they would, because it would be so much fun. If they went over to a format like the English Premier League has for soccer, where if you're bad, you get relegated down. Because could you imagine how great that would be? Whereas, because teams, they do that in England, where if you have an out like something like this, like the Astros thing, come out of really bad sanctions against you, they'll relegate you for 3 years, no matter what you finish in the league below. And that hits your pocket more than a $5 million fine, because now you're not making TV money, you're not making top league money, you're not making, so there's a lot of money that you're not going to have coming in. The Astros didn't get affected remotely when it comes to all that. They still had the same sales the next year. They won the World Series 2 years later. So, yeah, I wish there was some format like that, but no, there was no way that Rob Manfred was able. If that story ever came out, Manfred would have a job immediately.
Right. Thank you for the question, Midnight Token Floyd chat account from YouTube. Next question from Andy Haas Ferguson FG 4395. There we go. What will Jazz look like in 2025? I am still to be convinced that he is a championship level player, really poor with the bat in most of the playoffs, a number of base running mistakes, and a high number of errors in the field. I know it's a new position. He seems more interested in goofing around than focusing on the prize. What do you think, Andy in Scotland?
Yeah, that's awfully harsh for a player like Jazz Chisholm Jr., I think. I don't know where you're getting that he's not a championship level player. Maybe because he hasn't won much, but he was with the Marlins his whole career.
Yeah.
Here's his batting averages from his rookie year, which is really 2021. He got called up in 2020, but didn't play in a lot of games. 2021, 248, 254, 250, 250, and then he had 256 last year. So he's right consistently where he normally is. In fact, with the Yankees last year, he had 273, which is way higher than he normally hits. His on bases are 303, 325, 304, and then last year with the Yankees, 325. So, he's averaging per year anywhere from 15 to 20 home runs. He averages anywhere from 50 to 70 RBIs. That's the player that he is, and he wasn't really bad. In fact, I thought he was terrific in the field last year. So, especially
considering it was a new position, yeah.
Yeah, he made some unbelievable plays. I don't think he's more focused in goofing around. I think he just speaks out more than other players, which I don't think he should be punished for. We complain all the time that baseball players don't give us enough when it comes to interviews. And then we finally get a guy that gives us a lot when it comes to interviews, and we complain about that too. So, no, I think for what Jazz Chisholm is listen, Stacey, when they acquired Jazz Chisholm, I don't think they were thinking that they were acquiring, Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton. They knew what they were acquiring. They were acquiring a 275 hitter that's going to give you 18 homers and 70 RBIs per year. That's exactly what he is as a player. So, no, I don't. From what I saw last year at Jazz Chisholm, I thought he was exactly what he is as a player and exactly what you could have expected.
And, none of the Yankees played at a championship level because they didn't win the World Series.
There you go. Last question here from Rivka Meiselman. It's 3375. They said everyone talks about making up for Soto's wins above replacement, but what if we had a stat for wants to be a Yankee? Could simply loyalty, appreciation, and passion chip away at the Soto void? No, because there's no way of measuring loyalty, appreciation, and passion. That doesn't translate to wins. It just doesn't. I gotta be honest with you, Stacey. As a fan, I think it's great when a guy like Jazz Chisholm wants to be a Yankee. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. It's so cool, fun, great, love it. If they win a World Series with 25 guys who couldn't care less about being Yankees, I still wouldn't care. Right. I care about them winning. I don't care whether they want to be a Yankee or not. It's great when I think it's an added bonus when they want to be a Yankee. But ask any Met fan out there. They don't care that Juan Soto doesn't want to be a Met, doesn't care that he's a Met. If Juan Soto leads them to a World Series, that's all they care about. So that's the way I feel about these players. At the end of the day, it's a famous Seinfeld quote. And it's meant to be a joke because he's a comedian, but also does ring a lot of truth. At the end of the day, we're all rooting for laundry. We are. We're rooting for who's wearing the laundry that we like the most. So I don't think, it's great when the guy does want to be a Yankee, but if he doesn't, it really doesn't bother me very much.
Well, thank you guys for all of your questions for Fan Mail Friday. And again, for next week's Fan Mail Friday, just leave your questions under our videos on YouTube, and insiders, I send you messages to let you know when to get them in. So coming up next, it's arbitration time.
From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need, from live bets to same-game parlays and so much more. Speaking of those NFL playoffs, they start tomorrow, and you have a full weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday night, of all NFL playoff games. You can get involved in all of them, from live bets to in-game bets to the same day before. Anything you want, including future bets and Super Bowl champions, you can still get in. Just visit FanDuel.com. All that's available, and you can join today. Then get started with $250 in bonus bets. That's all available at FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel. It's an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, Stacey, the arbitration numbers are out, and the Yankees have a lot less drama than they've had in years past when it comes to the arbitration numbers. Really, every single player if you guys aren't familiar with how the arbitration process works, I think we should inform some fans if they're not aware, because it's an interesting process, and I think a lot of players talk about it in a very negative fashion more often than not. It's just the way the collective bargaining agreement worked out. It's actually meant to make players more money. So you would think that a player, when he is in his rookie contract, which is 7 years from the day you become a major leaguer and you're activated on the 40-man roster, your clock starts at 7 years. And you would think that a player is going to be making the league minimum from all 7 years of that contract. And players were aggravated about that because it doesn't allow them to make more money quicker on in their career, which is true. Well, they started the arbitration process a few collective bargaining agreements ago to get these players to make more money based on their performance. So the first 3 years of your rookie deal, you make the league minimum, the rookie minimum, which I believe right now is at $777 million, $1,000.
I was like, wow, that's Soto money.
Yeah, for the year. Then your 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th year, you hit arbitration, which basically your agent submits a number that you believe you should be paid at. And it's based on what other guys are being paid in their arbitration process. And the team submits a number of what they think you should be paid. And generally that number is lower than what the agent says. Now, the agent and the team have an ability to come to a middle ground of a number that they think is fair for both sides, and they agree to that. Or, if they don't, they go to an arbitrator, who then they will sit down in front of this judge, and the judge will decide what the deal should wind up being. It often becomes very volatile, because the player obviously thinks he deserves the most money possible, and the team obviously thinks they deserve less. And often it feels very weird when billion-dollar teams are fighting to pay a player $20,000 less than they deserve. Right. It feels very strange. However, this happens all the time with players around the entire league. The Yankees, most famously, I guess you can tell the story if you want, had a problem with one of their better players years ago. I know you remember it very well.
Yeah, the Yankees actually haven't gone to an arbitration meeting since 2017 with Dellin Betances, so they've worked out pretty well with everyone, where they've all come to agreements since then. But Dellin Betances was not happy when he came out of that meeting, because Randy Levine was representing the Yankees, and he basically skewered him. And think about that, how good Dellin Betances was. And Randy Levine went in there and was just like, no, he's not worth the money he wants.
Yeah, they bring up crazy stats, these organizations. And you have seen arbitration cases where a player wants like $17 million and the team wants to pay him like $11 million. Yeah. And there is like a big gap in between. Those I get. The ones that confuse me is when the team wants to pay $8 million and the player wants $8.8 million and they can't come to an agreement. It's like, really? Are we really haggling over a couple $100,000?
Well, I remember seeing one where it was like 50,000. There was a difference of like 50,000. I'm like, you can't come to an agreement, $50,000. Like, come on, that's nothing coming out of the team's pocket.
Those are just strange. But we can go to the arbitration numbers. They did get released. I think the Yankees had 5 total players that entered arbitration. So, for example, a player like Anthony Volpe is going into his 3rd year. He's not arbitration eligible. He gets paid what the standard contract says, which I think now would be $823 million for him in his 3rd year. It goes up a little.
Thousand, not million.
Why do I keep saying million? Yeah, that would be. I mean, Volpe would love that. I should be his agent. But next year, Volpe will go to arbitration, and he'll be paid generally in the same level of what the shortstops at his range would make. Which would probably, for Volpe in his first year of arbitration, be around $6 million to $8 million. That's what he'll get in his first year, and it'll jump up every year from there on until he's a free agent. So the first player that went in, and he's going into his last year of arbitration, was Devin Williams, who got $8.6 million, which, Stacey, feels like a steal for a player like that.
Yeah.
Because if you had to guess right now, what is Devin Williams going to get on the open market next year? If he puts up a general Devin Williams season, which honestly, a general Devin Williams season is a 1.9 ERA, what is he going to get on the open market as a closer?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I really don't. I don't know.
19 million a year, 20 million a year. He's going to get. I mean, Aroldis Chapman was the highest paid closer in baseball with the Yankees. He was making 18 million a year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's going to get 19, 20 million dollars a year. So 8 million is a steal right at this point. Jazz Chisholm was the next guy, Stacey. He got 5.85 million, which again, I think for a starting infielder is a really good price.
Yeah.
Right. Clark Schmidt gets 3.6 million. Now that's a steal for a guy with the numbers that he puts up. And this is the point that we always make, though, Stacey, too, to all of our listeners out there. This is when you have to win. This is when you have to pay other players and win because you have guys that are making less money on your team.
And
when you're better players, exactly. When Aaron Judge was at this phase making, $5 million in a year, that's when you had to try and pay all the money and spend all the money to try and win then because these guys are making less money. So you have to try and balance it as best you can. That's how teams wind up winning, being below the luxury tax, because you're able to do it because you have guys on arbitration. Scott Efros agreed to $800,000. That's pretty good for the Yankees at that salary too. The only player they couldn't have come to an agreement with was Mark Leiter Jr. And do you have the exact numbers on that?
I didn't see the numbers in the article that I looked at for some reason. I don't know why. They have the numbers for everyone else, but it didn't come out what the difference was. And maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, sometimes those numbers don't come fully out because they're in the middle of a negotiation. They don't want to release them necessarily. I'm going to check one account to see if someone put it up there, but I'm not seeing anything either. Generally, though, when they go to arbitration, you don't see a number come out. Okay, I actually do. John Heyman actually has the number. Oh. So Mark Leiter Jr. filed at $2.5 million. The Yankees came in at $2.05 million. So there's a difference of 400 and whatever grand. Again, if they can't come to an agreement on that, I'd find that really weird. Yeah. But, the other one that was a big difference this year that's probably going to get a little bit of attention, to be honest with you, is Kyle Tucker with the Cubs. Kyle Tucker filed at $17.5 million. The Cubs only offered $15 million. That's a little bit of a gap at $2.5 million. That's a little bit of the gap at what he's going to get paid, especially because Kyle Tucker's probably going to make north of $40 million going into next year. So that's a big one. Also of note, Stacey, Michael King filed with the Padres.
I was literally about to mention Michael King because that's the other number I saw.
$8.8 million. The Padres $7.3 million. So that's a big gap too. That's an interesting one too, because I think at 8.8, I'd be fine with that for Michael King at the salary that he makes. So a lot of really interesting ones too. And I did want to bring up to you before we close out the show, Stacey. Did you see the news that came out just before we came on air? It is Yankee related.
No. The
fan in the World Series who ripped Mookie Betts' glove off.
Oh, yes,
has been banned from Major League Baseball.
Both those guys. There's two. Yeah, they're banned from all 30 stadiums. The guy who had the original tickets is not in trouble. He's had season tickets since 1990.
He shouldn't be in trouble.
Yeah, he had given those people tickets and they did a dumb thing and now they're banned from all 30 stadiums. So good job, guys. Good job.
Reasonable punishment?
Yes, you can't do that. You can't. He
Agreed.
was mauling Mookie Betts. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Here's my only question. How do they enforce that? Like, how do they reasonably enforce it? Well, if these guys try to go to a game in Colorado next year, them and like 35 people, how is Coors Field going to be able to keep these guys out of the stadium?
I mean, we are in 2025. Big Brother is watching. Maybe they have some sort of facial recognition thing like they have at MSG, and they'll be hunting these guys down.
I gotta think though. I've always wondered this when because there's been a few.
Maybe they'll have wanted posters at every security.
But don't you think about that though? If you get banned from the sport, how do they possibly keep track of you going into Camden Yards?
Well, knowing those two guys, they'll probably try.
Yeah, I would think. Yeah. But Yankee Stadium, I can see definitely banning them from. That makes sense. I just don't know how you're going to keep them out of all the stadiums, but still, pretty daunting. I can't imagine a worse nightmare for me. I would never do anything this stupid to get banned, but to be told I can't, that's one of the only things I enjoy doing in life. So you're going to tell me that I can't go?
Yeah.
Oh, that
I
would-
mean, I guess it's all like minor league and college baseball and independent league baseball.
Oh, I guess yeah. The report does say they're banned from all Major League Baseball stadiums.
Right.
So,
So they
you
can go
could
to other leagues.
check out to a Brooklyn Cyclones game if you'd like.
Go out to Japan. Go out to Korea.
Yeah, KBO did not ban them, so
Yeah.
interesting.
All right. Well, thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball. He keeps you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that'll do it for this Fan Mail Friday edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you guys next week.